Right. I think we're live. We might be on the correct channel if we are. Welcome everyone. Today is a special day. A very special day, I might add. It is the very final time Theresa May will be answering questions from this chamber. Notice, the room is packed. It is not just packed with those that supported her and those opposed her, but also those that knifed her at the very first opportunity. So, good evening, Patriarch of the Sith, Wandering Lisa, Maverick Muffin, Spoony McSpoonface, Celestine, Great Sky Troll, Takeout Joe, so Blue-Footed Booby, Triona. Hope you're all well. This should be... Oh, hello, Dead and the Damned. And I know it's not 9:30, but I've decided to start early. I'm going to start early, get through as much of this as I can, do something else this evening, and then go and do what I normally do on my day off tomorrow. Overtime. Yeah. That was a nice little phone call for a minute. Hello TC and Stargazer, and Psychomagus, and Cyrene. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I've only watched it once. I watched it when it was live. There were far more pressing matters to attend to, and I thought it worthwhile to watch all of that. Certainly it's not really an inauguration, but sworn in kind of thing ish. Go see the Queen, bow, ceremony, speech. Big shake up. I will address. So if you're already here, no, as you are, Cyrene, you're already here. Hello, Maggie Rose. I will address this now. Please do not spoil what Boris Johnson has already started doing, Cyrene. I'm aiming this at you because you do it all the time. And I want to talk about it in a video tomorrow instead. Instead, we're going to address what she says in this, all the praise, all the adulation, all the contradictions, all the silly, pointless questions, and see how far we get. Hello, horny hippos, and Titan Jedi. It is going to be quite interesting. So yes, started early, only waffled on for 2.5 minutes. Let's dive right in. Hello, Christina. Order!
Questions to the Prime Minister, Ruth Cadbury!
I should now say, I'm going to address the first 6 questions the 6 questions Corbyn has. I'm going to address Blackford's, but I also want to address the very last question, because I think when we get there, perhaps a small modicum of respect should be given to someone who tried very hard to find a middle ground and failed miserably.
Question number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, Lima Radek. Hope you're well.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. Following my duties in this House, this afternoon I shall have an audience of Her Majesty the Queen. I shall then continue with my duties in this House, from the backbenches, where I will continue to be the Member of Parliament for Maidenhead.
Ruth Cadbury!
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I profoundly disagree with many of the decisions the Prime Minister has made and many of the things she says. But I recognise that she does have a respect for public service and for the future of our country. So how does she feel about handing over to a man who, among many things, is happy to demonise Muslims, is prepared to chuck our loyal public servants and diplomats under a bus, and promises to sell our country out to Donald Trump and his friends?
Right, so let's address all of that. And hello, Prospero. Yes, I basically do this to screw with you. Hello, Lulu Bell. She went, this politician whose name I cannot remember because I'm terrible with names. Hello, Kitty Cutie. Yeah, she mentions a bit rude towards Muslims. This was a reference to the fact that he said those that wear those full-on bin liners look like post boxes or letter boxes. Okay. The betraying of the public servants. Well, that's a direct reference to the ambassador, and we now know who the whistleblower is. And he did it for all the wrong reasons, which I think to be quite interesting. Hello, Magpie Everspirit. Hope you're well. And as far as selling us out with Donald Trump, that's the funniest way of spinning an international trade deal that even the EU couldn't get. The EU has had a long time and a fair few presidents to try and do it with, and they couldn't get one. Hello, Tom of Loxley. It is amazing that us agreeing a trade deal with them, the Americans, is seen as the Americans because it's Trump in charge, as the enemy. That's right, Stargazer and Prospero, you Americans, you. Your president is basically, to us, literally Hitler and Putin together. But also because of his sexual prowess, he's also a mix of Peter Stringfellow and Ron Jeremy. Hello, Ash and Vince. Hope you're both well. I think that's it's an interesting question to start with, and I'll be honest, it is all the way from Whoville. Yeah, that's actually not a bad one. It's a terrible question, framed on 3 mistakes. Hello, Leo Wolfish. Mistake being that because Boris didn't condemn Trump because of the ambassador essentially getting persona non grata. Well, it was almost that. He chose to retire, which is unsurprising. The fact that Boris has an opinion. Hello, Churchy McBiscuit and Dominion Revelation. And Fenrir's Lair Painting. Hope you're all good, and I hope whatever you're painting, it's something exciting. I also think it's fascinating that a trade deal is a bad thing. Right. But because, it's Orange Man bad, of course. If you want to make her look good on her final PMQs, this is how you do it. Okay?
I am pleased to hand over to an incoming leader of the Conservative Party and Prime Minister, who I worked with when he was in my cabinet, who...
Before she even says it, I'm surprised he even took the job to begin with, considering it was supposed to be him that would be Prime Minister 2.5 years ago, or 3 years ago, or whenever it was that she took office. It's also fascinating the last 2 Prime Ministers that have been Conservative have made fundamental mistakes in calling for a form of election. Cameron's being the in-out referendum and hers being the snap general election.
And who is committed as a Conservative who stood on a Conservative manifesto in 2017 to delivering on the vote of the British people in 2016 and to delivering a bright future for this country.
Bob Blackman!
Right, I want all of you for this. This is a bit of audience participation. I want you to pull out your best kissing emojis, because what you're about to see is some of the finest ass kissing. Good evening, Karma, by the way. It is the finest and Lord Croco Squirrel. The finest ass kissing known to man. Oh. What was that? How strange. I had an alert. Nothing popped. Interesting. Oh, I wonder if it's like, I bet, right. I bet I got a Twitch follower and even though it's on a different scene, it decided to pop. Never mind. Yeah, get your, kisses, your tongues. I want them all out for this. Okay? You'll need it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to not only thank my right honourable friend for her loyal service as Prime Minister over the last 3 years, but also for her 33 years in public service, which is a record to be proud of, but also to thank her for her personal support in helping me get my private member's bill, the Homelessness Reduction Act, onto the statute book. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that it is far better to
I just
help
realised. Hello, Blade, peace and love, and I missed somebody. I think there is one other person in this area somewhere who asks a non-question. It is entirely him kissing her ass, and it's not this guy. So, my apologies for the hello, Sosite, or Alex. Have we left yet? Good evening too. There is a case that there is going to be some proper bottom kissing.
people and prevent people from becoming homeless, to use the taxation system to combat obesity and to prevent people from smoking in the first place. Does she agree with me that prevention is far better than a cure?
By the way, I actually agree with this question. It's not a bad position to hold. The and the homeless issues, tackling homelessness, I am all in favour of, because as far as I'm concerned, it's a fantastic thing to work towards, and dealing with the cause is so important. I don't think, and this is an issue, hello Trev, throwing money at something does not resolve the issue. And preventing obesity, Titan Jedi, you're actually right. Some will say it's fat shaming. I disagree entirely. I think if you're obese, vomit sausage, she gets no tongue action from me. Thank you for your very kind and generous donation. I appreciate it. I would say that tackling obesity, I'll even say this, somehow even I fall into the category of obese, even though based on my height and my build, I'm not. So obviously it depends on the individual. But it's borderline with me anyway, so it's fine. But tackling the cause of it is important. In children, it's usually a low quality of living. I know this from my own childhood, where we ate food that was predominantly just E-numbers and cardboard. It's a case that homelessness, although you can't really equate that with, and the BMI is absolutely flawed. Prospero, you're quite right. Comparing homelessness and, obviously he raised 2 points, homelessness and obesity, not the same thing necessarily. Tackling obesity and or homelessness, though, can be tackled the same way in dealing with the issue as opposed to throwing money at it, which is where this side, on Twitter, and I have to say this because it bugged me, I don't care for the term fiscal conservatism, because it just seems like a cop-out. It really does, based on what I'm seeing. I do believe in some sense of fiscal responsibility. Hello, Lloyd Franklin. I think if you are responsible, you can resolve an issue. If you throw money at it, you're not responsible. If you think that that makes you fiscally responsible, we can debate that for a considerable amount of time. It ends up just becoming a snake eating its own tail. Yeah, you know, if given the choice between a bag... Okay, so, Prosper, that's a good point. I don't eat crisps. I ditched them about 3 years ago. 2 years ago. Nearly 3, in fact. I ditched them. I ditched them in fizzy drinks. If given a choice for a snack, I'll eat... Actually, I had a snack this evening. It was a PhD Smart, high-protein, low-sugar chocolate brownie bar. That was a snack that I ate, because it was too hot for me to get down to the Sainsbury's to buy a fruit salad. So I chose the easier option, and I like chocolate. So, win. But not everyone has this opportunity. I am blessed in the sense that the support I get from all of you has made my life easier so I can live better, which is great. But not everyone has that, therefore that needs to be tackled. Tackling an issue is more important than simply, here, have some money, live your life. Well, you should be able to live your life though, but be able to afford to live your life is also key.
First of all, can I say to my honourable friend, can I thank him for all the work that he did on his Homelessness Reduction Act, Can I also say, crucially, we are actually seeing that act having an impact. And that is so important for people who are benefiting from the work that he did. He's been doing a lot of work, I know, as part of the Smoking and Health APPG. And I agree that we do need to start viewing health as an asset to protect throughout our lives. That's why we've taken bold action on smoking and on childhood obesity. And I'm proud that we've delivered the biggest ever cash boost in the history of the National Health Service, but also a long-term plan that, as my honourable friend says, will focus on prevention. Prevention also focusing on cancer care and mental health, but making sure that we are trying to ensure that people do not get into the situation where they are in that ill health in the first place. Preventing smoking, preventing obesity are key parts for better lives for people in the future.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today marks...
Before he even starts, I just want to do this. Yes, sorry. I don't know what the badge is. I assume it's not a Keck badge. I say this having had one 3D printed when Keck was still funny. Hello, IR. Hope you are well. And hello, Perfectly Faded Illusions. Hope everyone is having a lovely evening. I should say my favourite snack, by the way. Mine... Okay, if you go into hello, Michael Morris. And Lloyd Franklin. When it comes to me, snack is a bit of a weird one, because I have switched what I would consider a snack to something with a higher protein value. It used to be chocolate, probably. Yeah, but no, it's not that anymore. I'm a chocoholic, but I'm avoiding it to the lengths, to the amounts I used to go for anyway. I'll be honest, I'm going to say this now, a lot of the questions that he'll ask, some have merit and she doesn't do very well, but I would also point out he yet again just shows he's not very, on top of things. So let's continue.
It's the final day in office for the Prime Minister, and I pay tribute to her sense of public duty. Public service should always be recognised. Being an MP, a minister, or indeed a Prime Minister is an honour that brings with it huge responsibility and huge pressures, both personally and, I'm sure, the Prime Minister and probably the whole House would agree, on those very closest to us, who often are not able to answer back for the criticisms made against them. So I hope, Mr. Speaker, that she has a marginally more relaxing time on the back benches, and perhaps, like the Chancellor, even helping me to oppose the reckless plans of her successor.
Hello, Atomic Bomb Radio, Ibiza 1290, sorry, and General Crazy. Hope you're all well. I like the ever so slightly patronising commentary here from Mr. Corbyn. Hello, the Dude Cow. The Chancellor did support certain aspects of what Corbyn was putting forward, but he didn't actually support him. He just agreed that the no deal thing was a bad move. So it should be interesting to see what happens next because of what I'll be talking about in tomorrow's video with regards to Philip Hammond and many other people. Do not spoil that siren, by the way. By the way, I thought that was his question. I did wonder when I first saw this if he had paused. By the way, what are halloumi fingers? I've never had halloumi. What is it? Can someone in the chat please tell me what halloumi is? I'm very interested here.
Mr. Speaker.
Donate to my Streamlabs and I'll buy halloumi. Just taste it.
Mr. Speaker, if I may continue. I'm glad the government party's in such good heart today, Mr. Speaker. For tomorrow they won't be. Mr. Speaker, in the last 3 years, child poverty has gone up. Pensioner poverty has gone up. In-work poverty has gone up. Violent crime has gone up. NHS waiting times have gone up. School class sizes have gone up. Homelessness has gone up. Food bank use has gone up. Does the Prime Minister have any regrets about any of those things I've just said?
It should be noted that actually 2 of them he was incorrect on. Homelessness has, well, according to different sources, gone down. So thank you for the pantomime. The other one, okay, so the school reference, school class numbers have gone up. Yeah, because they can't build new schools. Because people are having more kids. What do you expect them to do? Oh, there was another one I mentioned. Bugger it. We'll just carry on. I should also point out, and it is the right thing to point out, violent crime has gone up, yes. Especially in cities, or across the country, in fact. Typically, mayors are responsible for that. Hello, Psychomegas. They're typically responsible for a fair amount of the whole budget use. Many of us now will obviously point to Sadiq Khan's failure to tackle it. He did repeal, ditch random stop searches, and what's happened? Many people believe that random stop searches did benefit, and it did. Just saying. I don't think, while he's painting them all as bad, they're all as bad as he thinks. In the sense of, for example, classrooms being more full than they used to be. Hello, Utaka Gamers. The homelessness one is iffy because different sources indicate it is up, and others, most of them, in fact, indicate they are down.
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman, it's very good to see the Conservative Party in good heart, which is more than I can say for the Labour Party. Let me just tell the right honourable gentleman, let me just say something to the right honourable gentleman about my record over the last 3 years and how I measure my record over the last 3 years. It's in the opportunity for every child who is now in a better school. It's in the comfort for every person who now has a job for the first time in their life. It's in the hope of every disadvantaged young person now able to go to university. And it's in the joy of every couple who can now move into their own home.
Well, it's a pipe dream.
Because at its heart, politics...
That's a point, actually. Home building under Theresa May, David Cameron, considerably higher than under the last Labour government, and I don't believe the current Labour government would prioritise it. Hello, goodbye, Alex. Have a great evening. And yes, gold anal beads. She's going out in style, because she's a classy bish.
At its heart, politics isn't about exchanges across these dispatch boxes, nor about eloquent speeches or media headlines. Politics is about the difference we make every day to the lives of people up and down this country. They are our reason for being here, and we should never forget it.
Hello, Valorous. Hope you're well. And yes, still not enough, really.
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, politics is about real life. Politics is about what people suffer in their ordinary lives. And I didn't mention that per pupil...
Hello, Carlos Castrojo. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well.
School funding has gone down. Police numbers are down.
Hello, John Rako. I should point out the police numbers down part. First of all, you're correlating crime going up with police presence as if police presence was the deterrent. That's not. That hasn't been proven to be true entirely. Hello, Swan732 and yes, Scotty8472, I believe. I don't think I said hello to you yet. Maybe I have. If I have, hello again. I should also point out. No, I'm not going to point it out yet. I'm going to let him finish.
GP numbers are falling.
GP numbers are falling because less people are interested and more people are retiring at an earlier age because GPs are paid a phenomenal amount of money for a long day's work that they do. Less people are interested in that job, though, because of the hours. You have to try and make that more appealing, and I don't think you're going to be able to do it by putting more money into it. GP numbers, by the way, also, technically, not down. Last I checked, and that was a few months ago on this stream, in fact, I checked this. The numbers were going down, but they were being reinforced. So they were... Okay, so the numbers were going up, but not as high as they had been prior to Brexit. Hello Debs Red, hope you are well. And yes, UK police don't deter anyone. I saw one earlier today, right? She was standing in the alleyway of the high street in my town, and she was just leaning up against a wall, talking to a random hobo. And I mean hobo, genuine hobo. This guy is renowned for trying to mug people, and she was just talking to him. That was it. I mentioned this because someone did get mugged by that same guy about 5 minutes later. I know this because I saw him run past me with someone's handbag. And do you know what she did? What I want you to do for this, bit of play along, I want you to take your right hand, open it up, and look at it. Right? Because in your hand is what she did. She did nothing.
2000, in the 2017 Conservative manifesto, the Prime Minister promised that no school would have its budget cut, and that they would protect TV licences for the over 75s and halve rough sleeping. Which of these pledges is the Prime Minister most sorry has not been achieved?
This will be the first question she doesn't answer fully. She focuses on one part of the three he mentions. So this is actually unfortunate.
Can I just point out to the right audience, I'm pleased to hear that...
Omegon clot repellent spray. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know how much halloumi is, but we're close. Thank you, Leo Wolfish. That's very kind of you.
He spent some time reading the Conservative Party manifesto in 2017. Had he read it properly, he's not been known always for reading the documents that he stands up and talks about.
Yeah, he's been accused of doing this for a number of bills and amendments got brought forward, and he didn't read them and asked questions that were actually answered in the bill itself. In fact, he was known to have not looked at the withdrawal agreement or the joint report or the deal itself, in fact. And, yeah, I can't do it as well as Skog, but it's good.
Had he read it properly, he'd have said we did make a pledge on rough sleeping to halve rough sleeping by 2022 and to stop rough sleeping by 2027. I'm pleased to say that in the last year we have seen rough sleeping going down, and particularly rough sleeping going down in those areas where this government has been taking action.
That's progress. It's just a shame you didn't address the other 2 points Jeremy brought up. Just saying.
Jeremy Corbyn!
I don't quite know where the Prime Minister gets her figures from on rough sleeping.
The Office of National Statistics.
All I know is that I travel around...
He gets his from the people, because that's more accurate than those that collect the data.
around this country. I travel around this country just like other members of this House, and I talk to people who've had a disaster in their lives and end up rough sleeping. We are the 5th richest country in the world. It is surely wrong.
Thank you, Prospero. That's very kind of you. And hello, Renovatio. Jeremy would solve the rough sleeping problem by executing all non-cooperative peasants. Hello, Irate Bear. This is a glorious day, and I'm sure, Lloyd, you can debate others about whether or not the Magna Carta is the best piece of writing ever. I personally thought the script for the most recent Ghostbusters was a masterpiece. Oh, hang on. If I'm going to say that, I should probably have that on the screen. Back to the video.
That anyone should end up sleeping on the streets of this country. We can and should do something about it. Mr. Speaker, I've often disagreed with the Prime Minister and have many criticisms of her policies. However, I welcome the reduction in the stake on fixed odds betting terminals, the adoption of the Children's Funeral Fund, and scrapping employment tribunal fees. Which of these policies is the Prime Minister most proud of?
What can I say to the right honourable gentleman? I'm proud of all the policies that we have introduced that have been improving people's lives. I'm proud of the fact that through the balanced management of the economy that we have done, we now see more people in work in this country than ever before.
It's true, but it doesn't take into account inflation, so it's not as impressive as it sounds. I should also point out, yes, Jeremy does do a great job talking to lots of people, but he's only ever seen talking to particular groups of people. He doesn't talk to the majority of the country, which is quite strange. Doesn't talk to the regular Joe. it's funny for a guy who supposedly wants to represent the working class that he surrounds himself with the middle class. How unusual.
I'm proud of the fact there are more children in good and outstanding schools. I'm proud of the fact that the attainment gap between the disadvantaged and the advantaged has been narrowed under this government. And I'm proud of the fact that we are putting the biggest cash boost in its history into our National Health Service. We are ensuring that the National Health Service, the most beloved institution in this country, will be there for people into the future. This is a Conservative government, my government, delivering on the things that matter to people in their day-to-day lives.
I do think that her intentions were always good. That's going to sound somewhat controversial. I do believe that she wanted what was best for the country. I do believe that. But she had such an issue with her party. The party still has these issues. The issue being that they are themselves absolutely torn on how to accomplish a goal. Labour are no better. We know this because not a single amendment they've brought forward has been voted through, much like Theresa May's deal. So I have to respect that to an extent. Do you believe that the election of the party leader, not just leader of the party but PM, is semi-undemocratic? I don't actually know. That's a really good question. That is a really good question, because the way our election system works is that it's not a glorified popularity contest. We vote for the MP. The number of MPs that are voted on, the one with the most, provided they reach a certain margin, can either form a minority or majority government. Sometimes coalitions happen, which is a fantastic sign of how divided politics is, which is great, because then parties can't be true to themselves and have to work in the interest of not just themselves but other parties that represent differing views around the country. I do think it is democratic that a party got the mandate and therefore a 5-year term. Who represents or is the head of that party is, I guess, an issue that many think to be the unmandated aspect. However, the party still is entitled to, under our own rules, to rule for another, well, nearly 3 years, 2.5 years-ish. Or depending on how long Boris has to work out this deal, 100 days and a bit more. I should point out the lowest serving Prime Minister we've had was just under a year. Or was it 64 days? We've had 2 Prime Ministers that have done less than a year or just over. It's ridiculous. I do think that Boris should be allowed the remaining time the Conservatives won at the 2017 general election. I don't know whether it is undemocratic because we don't select the leader of the party. That is selected by the party in a democratic process. I think this does bring up many questions. Some others I've seen bring up, pointing out that this is similar to the EU in one respect, where they select a leader and they're voted in through those internally as opposed to the public. I don't believe you can equate the two. Therefore, it's... Hello, Globus Hystericus. It's democratic, but it's kind of not, if we're thinking of it not from the process that we follow and have abided for centuries. Yeah, Labour didn't vote in Brown, but they were happy to have him at the front for 3 years. It is you could argue it if you want to base it on, but then we're not, by the definition of the word democracy, we're not. Don't forget here, we're not citizens of the UK. We are subjects of England. It's not the same thing. We don't have freedom of speech in the sense that everyone else in America has it. It's kind of strange how our system works compared to others, and what is and is not democratic. I guess you'd have to move the goalposts to make it work. But I do think Boris being the Prime Minister, I do think in the context that they are entitled to 5 years, who leads the party doesn't matter. The party won it, therefore the party can have whoever they want in charge, and they've chosen.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister may have noticed that none of those things that I mentioned were actually in the Conservative Party manifesto in 2017, but every one of them was a Labour pledge in 2017.
But you didn't win, so why does that matter? No one cares.
On Brexit, the Prime Minister's own red lines ruled out any sensible compromise deal. Only after she had missed her own deadline to leave did the Prime Minister even begin to shift her position. But by then, she no longer had the authority to deliver. Her successor has no mandate at all. Does she have confidence?
Yes, they do. They had the mandate that she obtained in 2017. He does not have to obtain a mandate as an individual because the party got the mandate. They were able to form a very tiny, hello Megazeus, a very tiny coalition with the DUP. They were able to form a minority government. Have we left yet? I don't know. I will not know until tomorrow, and by extension you won't either, Cyrene, if you spoil it. I swear to Aisha, we're going to have a very serious discussion. And yes, Corbyn does like talking about red lines. Before I continue, 99 people, I think, watching. Please smash the like button. I'd appreciate it.
That the Right Honourable Member for Uxbridge will succeed where she has not?
Can I just say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, I worked tirelessly to get a good deal for the UK.
By the EU standards, it was a fantastic deal for them.
And I also worked hard to get that deal through this Parliament. I voted for the deal. What did the Right Honourable Gentleman do?
Hello, Ethalion. Hope you're well. Labyrinth. That's going to be fun.
He voted against a deal. He voted to make no deal more likely. And when there was a prospect of reaching consensus across this House, the Right Honourable Gentleman walked away from the talks.
That's because he wanted no deal taken off the table, because he and the SNP and other parties believe it is possible to legislate to prohibit no deal, which is rather interesting, because they think no deal is an option as opposed to an inevitability. If you don't have a deal, you have no deal. No deal is not something you choose, it is something that happens. It is like, let's consider it like life and death. It is a guarantee that if there is life, there is also death. No deal being death, but not in the context that we're going to die if we don't have a deal. That's not going to happen, okay? We're going to make a deal with the Russian-American Peter Stringfellow Ron Jeremy enemy that is America.
At every stage, his only interest has been playing party politics.
Yeah, party politics is really starting to get on my nerves. I watch it a lot when I see these, especially in America, in congressional committees and Senate ones. The voting lines are always down party lines. It is just tragic. Logic and reason and conversation just goes out the window. Hello, number one.
And frankly, he should be ashamed.
No deal can be Yeah, I know. Thank you, Vince, by the way, for the donation. That's very generous of you. More halloumi for me! If I don't like it, by the way, it's a lot of halloumi not to like. Although I don't know how much it costs to begin with. This could be fun. Yeah. It was something that Ian Blackford mentioned yesterday on TV after Boris won. He mentioned it on TV. I was going to play the clip, but I couldn't be bothered. It's something that Labour have mentioned multiple times on the Andrew Marr show, interviews with Andrew Neil on BBC, basically. It is, and Question Time, Newsnight, basically any chance they've had to say it, they have. And they walked away from the table because they wanted no deal to be legislated against. Like, no deal has to stay on the table because, well, in fact, no deal isn't even on the table. No deal's under the rug by the door. But you're still trying to get us to move it outside the door because you think somehow we can control it. It's like a virus. It's basically a virus that there's no cure for. I keep on making all these comparisons. No deal is no deal. Let's just go with that.
Ashamed of himself.
We've had 3 years of bungled negotiations, and we now have the spectacle of a Prime Minister coming into office with no electoral mandate.
He doesn't have to have one because you're not voting in the leader. You vote the party, and the party had the mandate. And he, for the most part, Boris does support a fair amount of what Theresa May's pledges were. She's just the face of it. The ideas, the buck stops at her. Just going to say this now. She didn't have to have a mandate. The party had the mandate. And I should also point out, and it has come up in the chat a few times, honestly, you are the last party to argue this. Okay? You had Gordon Brown. He had no mandate. And that's why he had to, after Tony Blair won his election, he then handed over to Gordon Brown. Gordon Brown, halfway through a term, decided, okay, fine, I'll do it now. Seriously. I know you don't care for Brown, although, to be honest, I have nothing but respect for that guy, considering how much crud he had to endure. To be fair, I have a considerable amount of respect for Theresa, because she went about trying to find a solution the wrong way, but she tried. And I've got to give her credit for that. And yes, they do disregard it all because Brexit. Or we could just call it by its real name. Baba Yaga.
Looking for a Brexit deal that has been ruled out by the European Union, or in the case of a no deal, ruled out by the majority in this House and by anyone that understands the dangers to the British economy of a no deal.
Even a deal was dangerous to the economy. You just shift the goalposts because you don't like it. You complained when the deal was brought forward because it would have harmed the economy and not made us as rich as we would have been if we stayed in the EU. You complain when no deal is the only other option left because, well, big surprise, we're not going to do as well outside of the EU as we would have done. But you're predicating it on the assumption that we are not a very good country and we are unable to succeed. How much of a nihilist are you? Honestly, how much of a nihilist are you to think that way? I actually, and I'll give Boris credit, he's going into this balls deep in the most optimistic fashion, a glass half full as opposed to this glass near empty. Because I think you need to. You need to approach this enthusiastically. You need to see it as what it is. What is all of this to us? What is Brexit to us? I ask you, the chat, what is it? Because to me, it's an obstacle, it's a challenge. And there's one thing I like a good challenge. And I think that's the approach Boris is taking. I think that's the right approach to take. If you consider it as a challenge, yeah, we're going to have some fun with this. If the EU don't want to renegotiate, then I think we've got something to have fun with. Because they're going to be down 250, quite a lot of millions, in a deficit. Hello, Raphael Perry. It is freedom, you're right. But it's also to negotiate it is a challenge. That is the important part. And thank you in the chat for those giving me tips on how to cook halloumi. I will try this tomorrow when I go to my sister's. It'll be very interesting for me. I really should continue with this because I'm prattling on. Hello, Director Greyhound. Hope you're well.
The next Prime Minister thought the Isle of Man was in the European Union.
You need more snacks to power you through these wiggly words. Thank you, Maverick Muffin. I really appreciate the donation. That was very quick as well. I take it. Guy said no deal will cause global calamity. Oh, will it? Oh, Verhofstadt. I'm so sorry. Do you remember earlier when I said that the police did nothing? Right, well now you take the same hand, open it up again, look at it, and you'll find how many fecks I give. Oh, there's none there. How strange.
And that the European Union made rules about kippers.
To be fair, the Isle of Man thing was amusing. I'll give him that. And the kipper thing, I thought there was a wider point. It wasn't so much the kipper point he was referring to. I thought it was because he was referring to the fish as a whole. because basically France want to fish in our waters, and Spain wants to fish in our waters. And yes, I did notice the optimism. Bear, I'm going to address it all tomorrow in a video on this channel, addressing his speech, the cabinet shake-up because it's yet to be finalised, and of course, the salt.
In fact, were made by the government that he was part of. He also said the UK could secure tariff-free trade through Article 24 of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, despite the Trade Secretary, Attorney General, Governor of the Bank of England, all confirming that is not possible.
First of all, if you think Ace Rimmer would be a better, would be great in politics and in Parliament, press 1, please. Bear, if you spoil a single thing about the cabinet shake-up, I'm going to put you over my knee and get the spiked paddle. And hello, Tiger Lily. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. You need to be in my streams and my chats more on server.
At the start of 2018, it's coming, don't worry.
More chance of him coming at this point.
At the start of 2018, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister herself set up a new unit to counter fake news, charged with combating disinformation. How successful does she think that's been?
LOL.
I have to say to the right honourable gentleman that I fear that our success hasn't been what we wanted it to be, from the amount of fake news and fake information he uses at that dispatch box.
He has been on occasion done in for terminological inexactitude and I will quote this because I don't want to be told off, unintentionally misleading the House, because we can't have anyone openly say, yeah, you just misled the House, you prick. Oh, I'm loving the chat, by the way. All those ones, seriously. I should say, if Gordon Brown... Oh, mandate. Oh, dear, I misread that. I'll take it the other way, though, instead of the going on a mandate itself. If he actually gone for a general election just after Tony had won, right, I still think Cameron would have beaten him. I really do. Cameron is just so much better in debates and in person and talking. Hello, Stuart Taylor. He really couldn't, like, Gordon Brown could not handle much in the way of, like, confrontation and stuff. He had anger issues. We all know about it. He threw a phone at someone once. I think that's where Russell Crowe mimicked him. Or was it a fax machine? He threw something electronic at someone, I think maybe it was a fax machine. He probably thought it was a phone, to be fair.
Well, maybe, Mr. Speaker, she can have a word with her successor on the way out. But
they did actually talk on the way out. I believe Boris said to her, na 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 na, na 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 na, hey hey hey, fuck off.
Let me conclude by welcoming some for today. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by welcoming some of the Prime Minister's notable U-turns over the last couple of years. The cruel dementia tax was scrapped. Plans to bring back grammar schools were ditched. The threat to the pensions triple lock was abandoned. Withdrawal of the winter fuel payments was dumped. The pledge to bring back fox hunting was dropped.
The fox hunting one I'm glad was dropped, because the moment I heard they were thinking about bringing that back, I was like, I should also say it's possible Boris actually just said, "Bye, had a great time," but in his more pompous Etonian way of, "Faux shizzle my nizzle, don't let the door hit you on the bottom on the way out, brethren." In it. Dude.
And they binned their plan to end universal free school meals for 5 to 7-year-olds.
Well, they had to save money. And anyway, parents are just passing them chips through the fence anyway.
The Prime Minister has dumped her own manifesto.
And Leo Wolfish, actually, you know, I tend to take the stance of Brian May on this one. The vaccines are so important. We actually have the ability to do this now. We don't need to do the badger culling. Cars do it for us. Honestly, I don't mean that to sound harsh, but you know what I mean. We actually have the ability to do it. So we should be doing the vaccines instead. Hello, the loyal opposition. Hope you're well, mate. I have finished painting one of 2 badges, and the lawgiver has been given a base coat. Thought you should know the update. Dude!
Given that her successor has no mandate from the people...
How many times is he going to say mandate?
No mandate in which to move into office.
He doesn't have to have one. You know the political system we live in. You were moaning about it. Actually, in fact, hello, Jono. I would... I should point out, right, that you weren't exactly complaining when Brown went in. In fact, you were only complaining because he wasn't spending enough money.
Doesn't she agree the best thing the Right Honourable Member for Uxbridge could do later on today...
This is obviously... Take a wild guess, everyone, what he thinks Boris Johnson should do straight away. Hello, Jono. If I haven't said that already, which I'm pretty sure I just did twice. What do you think he's going to do? Because it is obvious. It's obvious what he's going to ask to do, because he's asked so many times. Yeah, Globus gets it. Globus got it right straight away. General election.
When he takes office is to call a general election and let the people decide their future.
I like the fact that he thinks he can beat Boris. Hang on. You couldn't beat Theresa. You couldn't beat her at her worst. You couldn't beat her at her strongest. You couldn't beat her if she was a dead corpse over the dispatch box. Wake up, sheeple. You don't stand a chance against Boris. Sorry, Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson. Seriously. I cannot wait for next week. I cannot wait to see him go one-on-one with the Boris. It's going to be very funny. Let's just hear her answer, though, because she does give a very interesting answer to this. Oh, call a general election to an outgoing Prime Minister. Look, she doesn't give a damn. And you're not going to win against Boris. Order! Order!
My first answer to the Right Honourable Gentleman is no. And if he wants to talk about people ducking manifesto commitments and commitments made during a general election campaign, can we remember what the Labour Party, the Right Honourable Gentleman, said about student debt? Going to abolish student debt?
That's not entirely true. He said he would look at it and look to try and do it. But he never promised it. It was an interview with an NME magazine, spelt NME. It's an indie rock music magazine, basically. I remember it, so I will defend him on that.
After the election, no, he rose back on that promise,
Well, of course. It involved a lot of spending. Money he needed to renationalise humanity.
What did he say during the general election? He was committed to Trident. What does he say after the general election? No, he's not committed to Trident at all. He has broken promise after promise to the people.
And Globus Enemy is still going, but I think it's more online now. And her final words to the Right Honourable Gentleman is not what you'd like it to be, Prosper. I wish it was, though, to be fair. No, it's something, I think something more fitting. I don't know if they're trying to defeat Kirby or not, but who knows.
Of this country, but I say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, as this is the last time that we will have this exchange across these dispatch boxes. I was going to say that it is the strength of our British democracy that the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition have these exchanges across their dispatch boxes every week at two swords' length. No quarter is sought and none is given. And that's as it should be in our adversarial parliamentary democracy. But he and I are very different people, and with very different politicians. I think we approach the issues we face in this country in different ways. I have spent all but one of my years in this House on the front bench, trying to implement the policies I believe in. He has spent most of his time on the back benches, campaigning for what he believes in, often against his own party.
Because his party wasn't left enough for him. Oh, and smash the like button.
But what I think we both have in common is a commitment to our constituencies. I saw that after the terrorist attack in Finsbury Park Mosque in his constituency. But perhaps I could just finish my exchange with him by saying this. As a party leader who has accepted when her time was up, perhaps the time is now for him to do the same.
Boom! I would point out, of the two, he's the only one to lose a vote on her confidence within his own party and still be there. She won hers and stayed, obviously, and then won it in Parliament as well when he tried to bring the government down. We are going to skip ahead a little to the paper fiddler because hang on, let's dismiss that. Where are you? Oh, hang on though. Hang on. This might be the kissing part. I can't remember. Hello everyone. Let's just carry on. More. Get ready for the kisses. I think this might be the one that does all the butt kissing. I cannot remember. It might be. So I'm going to give him a chance, and if he is, I'll let you know.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I first met the honourable member from Maidenhead when she came campaigning with me in Bury in the very difficult days, the dark days of the late 1990s. She's been a great friend of Wales ever since then. Yeah. And only recently her government has approved the end of the tolls on the M4 and a number of other great issues for Wales. Can I ask the honourable member, the right honourable member, the Prime Minister, to encourage her successor
this isn't it either.
To bring forward
this is tragic.
A bill to extend the general election franchise.
I don't care about his ass kissing. Let's move on to the next one. Oh, basically he was a bodyguard for somebody and she's now embarrassing him.
I have to say, Mr. Speaker, I think it's a new part of...
Right, I'll pull the paper fiddler up for a second because we're going to need him in a minute. But yeah, she's going to bring up something. It's nice to know that, hello Sith, smash the like button.
His past recently, which is that I believe he was once the bodyguard to the legendary Hollywood actress Lauren Bacall.
Meeting of minds.
Right, let's do this. Paper fiddler, everyone. You ready? Lock up your reams. Hide your children. Get the lube.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, it is fair to say that we have had our differences. It has not often been a shared meeting of minds. However, with the Prime Minister standing down today, the time for holding the Prime Minister to account has passed. Mr. Speaker, the burdens of office are considerable. The loneliness of leadership can be stark. Whilst there are times we have clashed on points of political difference, equally we have stood together when it has been right to do so. Over Salisbury and over the threats to the UK's national security. The Prime Minister has made sure that opposition leaders were informed rightly at key moments in national security. And in particular, her Chief of Staff, Gavin Barwell, has always sought to make sure that I was kept informed of important developments. Prime Minister, I wish you and Philip all the best for the future. As the Prime Minister departs, is she confident that the office of Prime Minister can be upheld by her flagrant successor.
What a crap question. Hello, Green Pony. Hope you're well.
Yes. Can I first of all thank the Right Honourable Gentleman for his remarks. He's absolutely right. He and I have a difference of opinion on some key issues, but I've been grateful for the position that the SNP has taken on some of those key issues of national security when it has stood alongside the government as we have faced the actions of our enemy. Can I also say to the Right Honourable Gentleman that I understand the point that he has made about keeping opposition leaders in touch with things that have taken place. And I would also like to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to pay tribute to Gavin Barwell, who was a first-class member of this House, a first-class minister, and has been an absolutely first-class Chief of Staff. And in answer to the Right Honourable Gentleman's question, yes, I congratulate my Right Honourable friend for winning the Conservative leadership election. He will take over as Prime Minister, and I look forward to a first-class Conservative government under his leadership, delivering for the whole of the United Kingdom.
Before we continue, hello, Christopher. Hope you're well.
Ian Blackburn! Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister-elect has no mandate in Scotland.
That's because they are a representative of the United Kingdom. They don't go for a mandate in one country. What is your bloody point, you fat, balding twerp?
He has no mandate from the people.
He doesn't have to have one. The party does. You know how a democracy works.
The government he is busy forming has no mandate in Scotland. Mr. Speaker, Scotland deserves better.
Lol. They've got you, though.
A snap YouGov poll shows 60% of people in Scotland are dismayed and disappointed by the new Prime Minister.
Yes, and I looked at that YouGov petition. Wow. The voter turnout for that. So high, it didn't even amount or account for 1% of the Scottish population, which is what you would need. It's what you need for it to be considered a decent sample size, rendering the YouGov petition utterly redundant. I'd also say 60%. So you're telling me 40% of Scottish people who agreed to do that particular petition or poll aren't so bothered by Boris? That's interesting. Very, very interesting.
Prime Minister, we on these benches have tabled an early day motion with friends from parties across this House rejecting this House being shut down before November. Following Parliament's overwhelming message in last week's vote, can I invite the Prime Minister, in one of her first actions as a backbench MP, to sign our early day motion and join efforts to stop the suspension of Parliament under any circumstances?
Can I say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, as I said in answer to his first question, I accepted that he and I do have differences on a number of issues. I think we both have a passion for delivering for the people of Scotland. I want to do that with Scotland as part of the United Kingdom. He wants to take Scotland out of the United Kingdom. And can I say to him that what we do have in this government is a mandate from the people to form a government of this country. That's how we run things in the parliamentary democracy, that we have here in this country. We also have a mandate from the people to deliver on the result of the 2016 referendum. And if he's so interested in delivering on mandates of the British people, he should have voted for the deal and taken us out of the EU.
Problem with this is, and I'll leave a smile on the screen for this, is that he's only interested in Scotland and not the entire of Great Britain. I am going to skip to the end to two questions. There was one. That's Harriet Harman. Where's the one before? Where is she? Oh, there she is. Right, so I'm going to go to Mog first because he asked a question and it kind of leads on. He doesn't really ask a question. He basically says thank you, but I need him to speak first before we go anywhere. Context is important. Hello, Stanton. Hi. Hope you're well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And yes, meme the smile, please.
As somebody who has not invariably seen eye to eye with the Prime Minister, may I thank her for her remarkable public service and for showing that highest of virtues, a sense of duty, and on top of that, being willing to deal with people who must on occasions have been annoying to her with enormous courtesy. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of many people, may I thank the Prime Minister.
Thank you. Can I?
I need him for this, by the way, because of, I believe, who's next. And they're going to throw a little shade at Mog, and I want to talk about that.
Can I thank?
The honourable gentleman's voice carries, I was able to hear his question, but I'm at least as interested to hear the answer. The Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank my honourable friend for his remarks, and can I say to him that the point of this place is about debate and argument and discussion about the issues that we all believe and that matter to us all so passionately. And those debates and discussions are best held when they are held with respect and courtesy. And I thank my honourable friend for the courtesy that he has shown to me in our discussions together. And I look forward to probably continuing some of those discussions when I join him on the back benches.
Joe Swinson!
Right, so Joe Swinson is the newly elected, within the party, so no mandate, irony, of the Liberal Democrats. Next to her, by the way, is Chuka Umunna, you know, that guy who defected from Labour to create TIG, or the Independent Group, or whatever they're bloody well called, and then defected to the Liberal Democrats, because he wanted to merge TIG with the Lib Dems anyway. I think he might be her second in command or something, but I want her question is going to be about, well, we'll get to it. It's just very patronising. We should definitely address it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When I think of girls growing up in Eastern Bartonshire, it is inspiring for them to see women in positions of power.
That's fantastic. I should also, and I'm going to say it again, smash the like button.
That's as First Minister of Scotland or as Prime Minister of our United Kingdom. Can I ask the Prime Minister...
Here comes the shade.
...what advice she has for women across the country on how to deal with those men who think they could do a better job but are not prepared to do the actual work.
What a waste of a question. That was just done to throw shade at Mog. That was it. It was just done. By the way, I should say, I don't mind women in politics at all. I don't take issue with that. When you start making an issue of it, I think you start to show yourself as a bit one-dimensional. It's like comedy. You start telling only a certain type of joke. It kind of gets stale. Quite frankly, you're one-dimensional and you bore me. I think the argument she's making against Mog is because he has never shown an interest in positions of power. That to me is very interesting, but he is involved in a lot of the committee work, instead working for the people instead of taking a position of power, which would then mean he couldn't do right by his constituents, of Somerset somewhere, I don't know, west. I also like the really smug look on Chuka Umunna's face. That is precious.
Prime Minister!
My advice.
I'm not even going to bother answering it, but damn that smug look on his face. Oh. Can someone remind him he's bald, please? Okay, I'm going to move on to the Mother of the House, as she's called, because that is the name given to the longest-serving MP who's female. Longest-serving man being... Oh, hang on. Hang on. I want to check this quickly, because I need to... I can't remember his name. Father of the House. Kenneth Clark. Right. Is he still the Father of the House? He is. Okay. And the Mother of the House is... Yeah, it is Harriet Harman. Okay. Longest-serving male and female in the House. They are the Mother and Father of the House. It is a respectable position to hold. It is a title. Hello, Quasi. Harriet Harman was somebody during Tony Blair's years. She was in the cabinet. She served a couple of times actually as under Ed Miliband. She filled in for him when he was away, and it was always quite interesting because she's very much motivated on getting girls into politics, equal rights. She's very passionate about it. So I'm gonna toddler of the house, probably Jo Swinson actually.
Training that the Order Group has made available for members of Parliament.
I'm doing this last one because this is the last question she gets, and I'm going to be respectful.
Finally, I call the mother of the house, Harriet Harman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's always a historic moment when a Prime Minister leaves office, especially when the country faces such difficult times as we do ahead. But her departure marks another milestone, because though we're on to our 77th Prime Minister now, she is only the second woman ever to have held that office. And she put tackling human trafficking and the horrors of domestic violence as a priority at the heart of her government. And can I say that in that respect, her legacy is secure, because everyone in this House backs that, and we will all be committed to taking that forward. Even her harshest critics must recognise her integrity, her commitment to public service, her dedication to this country, and those are qualities that none of us should ever take for granted. But can I just offer her a word of sisterly advice? Sometimes you just have to be a bit more careful when a man wants to hold your hand.
Jesus Christ.
I thank
Jesus Christ, the patronising. I'm going to let it go. Just carry on.
her for her service as our Prime Minister, and I sincerely wish her all the very best for the future.
Prime Minister!
Well, can I thank the Right Honourable Lady for her question? And of course, the Right Honourable Lady joined this House in 1982 when there was a female Prime Minister, but very few women in this House. And she has played a very important role, and she can be proud of the role that she played in ensuring that more women came into this House as Labour members of Parliament. And she started something which has started to change the face of this House, which has been very important. I, of course, came here in 1997 as one of only 13 Conservative women, and indeed one Labour Member of Parliament approached me to encourage me to sign the private members' bill list, because he assumed as I was a woman I must have been a Labour Member of Parliament. But I'm also proud to have played my part in getting more women MPs in this House, and I'm sure that amongst the women in this House today there is a future Prime Minister, maybe more than one. Later today, as I said earlier, I will return to the back benches, and it will be my first time in 21 years, so it's going to be quite a change from standing here at the dispatch box. I'm told that over the last 3 years I've answered over 4,500 questions over 140 hours in this House. More than I might have expected, Mr. Speaker. In future, I look forward to asking the questions. But we are, as the Right Honourable Lady has said, living through extraordinary political times. This House of Commons is rightly at the centre of those events. And that's because of the vital link between every single member of this House and the communities, the commons that we represent. That's the bedrock of our parliamentary democracy and of our liberty. And each one of us, wherever we sit, whatever we stand for, can take pride in that. And that duty to serve my constituents will remain my greatest motivation.
I'm going to let this play out because it's respectful. I mean, you may hate her, but she tried at least. Yeah, I'm done with that. I can't be bothered. Bye, Theresa. Bye. Yeah. Many did point out, and it was all over the news, that you could see her crying. I honestly don't see an issue with that. She loved what she did, so I'm not gonna rail on her. That is just poor taste. It's a shame that she was unsuccessful in what she tried. But she had a go. I can't fault her for that. It's a shame that when she tried, the way she did fail was because of how she handled this. I do want to point something out, because if you notice, I'll go here quickly, a better shot. Here. Notice, all around here, stood applauding, sat in silence. They all showed a mark of respect towards her until the end. That is, I'll just keep this playing. Notice, applauding nothing. They're just waiting for the lunch bell to ring so that they can go and have their pork pies filled with caviar, because they represent the workers, everyone. Ah, screw this. I'm done. Thank you for joining, everyone. Thank you for the donations. I really appreciate that. Thank you to all those that turned up. By the way, Trev, I should point out, it's more discourteous. In fact, it is unprofessional to clap in Parliament. Thought you should know that. That's quite an interesting little tidbit. I'm going to go and watch Labyrinth. It's going to be fun. So thank you all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.